That devotee, Shalini, call her. Ready? Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunattu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we are continuing after a long time. We were discussing in our previous class, which I believe uh, was held almost 2 months ago. So we were discussing, among other things, the four functions of what is known as Antakarana. Antakarana means literally the literal meaning of this Sanskrit word Antakarana is the inner organ, which can be loosely referred to the English word mind. But it is not mind, because the idea of mind as we understand it according to modern psychology and according to Vedanta, there are many more functions of the mind, and the classification is based on, though it is the same antakarana, it has various functions. So because of these functional differences, each function is considered to be one aspect of the, you may say, the same mind. In fact, there is a distinct distinction made in Vedanta between manas and buddhi. That is the fundamental difference. One is the reactive mind, a mind which is, of course, material. According to Vedanta, everything is material. Mind is subtle matter. So, because of the increasing degree of subtlety, the same mind, if it is more subtle, then it becomes buddhi. That is the discriminative mind, the mind that can uh, discriminate or make choices. That freedom to make the right choice or the wrong choice. Sometimes, if the buddhi is not developed, then you may end up making wrong choices as well. So, that determination or discernment, as it is known in English, that discerning faculty of the mind is known as buddhi. But there is actually, according to Vedanta, a fourfold function the of cognition, what we call as the mind, the function of cognition, which is the principal thing that the mind does, has been divided into four parts. One is known as deliberation, determination, egoism, and recollection. So this is another way of classifying uh, antakarana, because you see, as you have to make uh, our idea should be very clear, because different systems of thought, that is, as you all know, we have discussed this earlier. Vedanta is one of the systems, six systems of thought, and there are minor differences in this all the six systems, which is Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Purva Mimamsa, Uttar Mimamsa, that is Vedanta, and then you have Yoga, Sankhya, and Yoga. So six schools. Sankhya and Yoga, they believe in the same characterization of the mind, whereas Vedanta has a different, of course, it is based on the Sankhya. So, mind is said to be infinite in nature because it can reach out and it is all pervasive. It is known as Ananta. according to Vedanta. But among the various functions of the mind, they are known as antakarana vritti, modes of the internal organ. So when you say organ, according to Bhagavad Gita, mind is also an indriya, one of the organs. We have 10 organs, organs of knowledge, organs of action, karmendriya and gyanendriya. That means through the six senses, the physical senses, which have their subtle equivalent, we get all the inputs. We hear things, we see, we smell, we touch, feel. So these sensory inputs, which obviously needs external sense organs, but they are connected to the internal sense organs according to Vedanta, which are subtle in nature, and they all are part of what we know as the physical brain. So it is the brain or the nervous system, the central nervous system, which responds to these external inputs, which is karana means instrument. Antakarana means internal instrument. So now according to Bhagavad Gita or Vedanta, the mind is also known as an antakarana, as one of the organs, because mind coordinates. Without the mind, without the presence of the mind, all the sensory inputs which go to the brain, they do not have any value, in the sense there should be some kind of coherent response to all the stimulus that you get, a well informed response. Otherwise, the sense organs will continue to show you things, you hear things, but you have to process it. And there should be a well informed response. Now, that will depend on the development of your mind. How your mind, the antakarana, which is the internal organ, the antakarana vritti, vritti means waves. So when there is a stimulus, you respond in a particular way. If a dog receives impulses, it will immediately react. So it will instinctively react. So it is known as the reactory mind. So it has what is known as manas in Vedanta, which is a purely reactionary mind. It can react based on the previous experience, of course. Smriti is inward, which is recollection. So, based on previous experiences, the dog or any animal gives out an immediate response. It responds because it has been instinctively, the mind has been trained to respond in a particular way. But there is, in as the mind develops, as the manas, this reactive mind develops into buddhi, which Vedanta separates. They say buddhi is a higher function. It is the same mind, same antakarana, but this function is not just reactionary, it does not just reactive, but it is a choice making capacity. It can deliberate, it can determine what is to be done, what is not to be done. Then the ego also comes, ahankara. Then the ego forces the reaction or forces the person to instruct its karmendriyas, the organs of action, to react. So, how you react, there is a will involved, there is an ego involved, a small. So, this is a very scientific way of exploring why human possibilities change from person to person. A person who is very instinctive in nature will be angry as soon as he gets, hears certain words, he sees certain things. He doesn't even have the patience to deliberate, to determine whether he should get angry or not, how he should react. So most of his action and his ego is so strong that his ego gets hurt at the least pretext. And then he reacts. And then maybe he regrets, but he reacts. So all the antakarana vrittis, the modes of the internal organ, they depend on this fourfold function. How far has the buddhi been developed in a person so that he can deliberate, he can think, he can pause, and decide whether to act, how to act, when to act. So all these things which are commonly known by the word in Vedanta, which is known as Viveka. Viveka means you use all your uh, experience, past experience, and your memory, which is recollection, smriti, and then control the ego, and then decide in a very well informed way how to react. That determines whether a person is a gentleman or just a if he is behaving like a brute, the response will be immediate and instinctive. So it is very common with the animals because unfortunately their nervous system has been trained in such a way that they will react. Of course, that is also based on previous memory. You have to train a dog again and again. You have to tell him. It trained dogs also they react in a very well informed way, but their scope is limited. The possibilities that a dog or any other animal who does not have a well developed buddhi will react. Of course, they may react depending on the skill or the training that has been given to them. They may react in a better way than the other animals, though they possess the same autonomous nervous system. So they have been trained. That is why this fourfold function is very important to understand. There is deliberation, determination, that is, and then we need a ego to convert it into some kind of reaction or action. And that ego also can cause internal problems. It's not always necessary that a well developed sense of ego will make him react. That ego may trouble him from within. His antakarna can be agitated. His ego will not allow him any peace of mind because he will keep on thinking. He cannot disassociate himself with the words that have been spoken. The reaction is not under his control because his ego insists that he has to react, he has to react. And even if he physically does not react, the ego will keep troubling him. So, Vedanta considers these are the four antakarana vrittis which are basic. There are permutations and combinations of this. So, no one can feel or have a particular feeling or willing, likes, dislikes. If you see, all are based on our deliberation, determination, egoism, and recollection. Recollection, of course, you have experienced something and you don't like that experience, so you dislike it. So that, according to Patanjali, again, if you come to the yoga school, he divides all our reactions, all our troubles, all our problems into five categories: raga and dvesha. Means attraction towards things that I like, or aversion for things that I don't like. Now, who decides whether I like it or not? Previous experience. So, recollection or smriti tells you that this is something which was not very pleasant last time you experienced it. So, you dislike it, and you'll say, I'll not taste it. I have tasted it before, and my memory tells me that it was not a very pleasant taste. So, likes and dislikes, according to Patanjali, raga and dvesha, they always they are inevitable functions of our mind. Either you like something or you hate something or you dislike something. And the more there are likes and dislikes, according to yoga, the more chitta vrittis or antakarna vrittis are produced. And that the more you have vrittis in your mind, the more restless and the more mm, lack of peace you feel. Peace means restriction of these vrittis. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. So that is the second sutra according to yoga. Stilling the mind, stilling these antakarana vrittis, not allowing them to uh, make you restless. So our likes, the stronger the likes we have, the stronger the dislikes we have for people, for situations, for things, the more disturbed we are. Then there is the question of this antakarana also gives rise to doubt. doubt or belief. Belief, if your memory is fresh, that is why one of the shlokas in Bhagavad Gita very clearly says how from anger, when you have a desire, kamat krodho abhijayate, means when there is a desire in the mind, and when that desire is not fulfilled, it results in anger. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. When that krodha comes, when that anger comes, a person does not take rational decision. He just acts because of that anger vritti is predominant in him. So sammoha means he does out of things, out of delusion. He acts as if he is in delusion. Anger does not allow him to consider a thing. He first acts and then he regrets. So that anger leads to sammoha. Sammoha smriti vibhrama. So when sammoha comes, you forget. Smriti means the memory. The memory of the past experience of anger you forget and you get angry again. So smriti vibhrama. Vibhrama means it deludes you. Then that delusion is because your smriti nashat, buddhi nasho. That means when you lose, memory is there, but unfortunately the anger vritti, the anger wave, and the sammoha, the delusion that has the result of that anger, they completely delude a person and he forgets his past experiences. Hundreds of times he has experienced that by doing this, I will be in trouble. But his smriti nasha means temporarily forgets he forgets the painful memory of the past and he commits it and then he regrets. So smriti nasha, buddhi nasha means then ultimately if it happens over a period of time, the faculty of the mind, antakarana, which is buddhi, which is what leads to deliberation, determination, control of ego based on your past experiences, they they give you the capacity to make the right choices, well informed choices, so that you don't regret afterwards. So the antakarana has these functions. It determines how we feel, how we use our willpower to do or not to do, what we like, what we dislike, how many things we like, how many things we dislike. The more the things you dislike and the more the things you like, that is, the more raga and dvesha. And the other problem is abhinivesha, the freedom, the fear of death. To add more confusion to our already confused mind of likes and dislikes, which is full of dislikes and likes because of our past experiences and our training. So we never train ourselves or never train our children to tell that you have to accept everything and not say and not develop strong likes and dislikes. Then life becomes very difficult. If you don't like certain food, then you have to go all the way that my child doesn't like this food, my child likes this food. Then as these likes and dislikes multiply, then both the child as well as the others suffer. So according to Patanjali, it has to be balanced. Raga and Dvesha, they are obstacles. Intensive attraction to things that you like. You may not always get it, or you may not, though you may dislike something, it may persistently come to you. So you have to have a balanced attitude, whether you like it or not. Just accept things. Be content with what you get. So that is how Patanjali says raga, dvesha, and abhinivesha. He says abhinivesha means clinging to life. He found that every creature, every living being has this fear of death. Nobody wants to die. It clings to life. No matter how small that creature is, even an insect, it will try desperately to cling to to life. So that is in human beings, it is fear of death. It's an unconscious fear of death, which is the root cause of all our other fears. That is why Patanjali doesn't go and discuss all the different fears, fears of losing money, fears of losing health, or losing our fitness, fears of old age, fears of security, fears of a secure life, and all sorts of fears. Basically, if you see, they arise from this abhinivesha, fear of death or clinging to life. All are related to that. I want money, I want savings, I want security, I want good health, because I want to live longer and a happier, in a happier way. If I am not able to take care of my health concerns, especially in old age, I it is my fear of death that makes me fear about my security, about so many other things, other fears. Everything has been subsumed in this basic fear, which Patanjali says is known as abhinivesha, or literally it means clinging to life. So everybody clings to life, nobody wants to die. So these things, likes and dislikes, doubt, disbelief because of wrong thinking, clouding of the mind. So doubts and beliefs, firm belief, because here doesn't have doubt, he has a very strong sense of memory. One of them is prayer and meditation. Why do we repeat a name? Why do we constantly pray? Because we want to make that memory overpower all other negative memories which are in our with antakarana. They are good about the vrittis of fear, the vrittis of likes, dislikes. They have to be overpowered. That is the simple scientific function of mantra. Mantra is a repeated a repetition of certain prayers, a positive prayer. Normally, every mantra tells you that you pray to a deity or a all-powerful Ishta or God who will help you who will help you all the time by being a part of your inner consciousness. So that prayer of the heart or the prayer is just creating by persistent repetition of the name and repeating some kind of prayer, you create a strong memory. So that smriti, that recollection, overpowers the recollection of negative experiences, which we have plenty, not only in this life, but we have inherited so many in the Karana Sharira from our previous life. So we have come with that baggage. They are already there. So it has to be overpowered by a positive, healthy recollection of a all-powerful, all-protecting God, whichever God we believe in, who sitting in the innermost heart, the prayer of the heart as it is often referred to, we try to remove all the negative smritis which lead to doubt, which lead to confusion, which lead to dislikes and also likes. So all the guesswork, all the doubts that we have about our security, about our future, they are causing problems. The antakarana vritti, the modes of the internal organ, they because they are not under our control, they have to be slowly brought under the control of a recollection, a positive recollection, a positive affirmation. And that memory helps us to overcome all the mm, negative emotions, negative feelings, negative fears, anxieties, worries, and all those things. So, uh, these four functions, which I have a fourfold function of cognition, deliberation, determination, egoism, and recollection, we have to keep in mind. But there are other aspects of the mind. This is cognitive. As I said, every mind has three capacities or four. According to yoga, it is four. First is cognition, the capacity to uh, think, deliberate, determine, use our ego in a positive way, and recollect, smriti. These all functions are taking place when we are thinking about certain things. We are thinking about our life, thinking about our problems, thinking about other people, thinking about issues, our environment. Every thinking, the faculty of the cognition, the cognitive faculty of the mind is active. But we are not just, man is not just a thinking animal, as some philosopher says. He can also feel. There are many things which thinking does not justify. If you ask, why do you feel uh, compassionate uh, towards animals or towards some birds, and there are some people who are very insensitive, they're not emotionally attached, whereas some people have developed that feeling. Now if you try to determine rationally why he is feeling that kind of sympathy, you cannot explain. The person will simply say, I feel very happy when uh, I'm compassionate towards these creatures. You cannot explain, you cannot justify by any type of action, deliberation, determination. If you go to analyze too much, then it will destroy your feeling. So that is why the cognitive function, though it is one aspect of the mind, there are other three aspects which are conative. That is, conative means you use your willpower. A person may be very sympathetic, very emotionally compassionate, but since he doesn't have the willpower, he will not get up and express his compassion in action. You need a developed willpower for that. It's not enough. You may, the whole day, you may say, oh, we should be very kind to animals, we should be very kind to animals. But if an animal is passing by, you don't have the willpower to go and help him. So the faculty of feeling may be there, the faculty of thinking may be there. You may come with the wonderful plans, but unless they are converted into concrete action, your feelings become action, your thoughts, good thoughts, are converted into action. So that is the second faculty, which is known as conative faculty or conation. And then, and the effective means emotional. So emotional also, all these three faculties are mm, very close to what we call a developed mind, but a developed means a higher mind, which is known as buddhi. This is an important concept which Vedanta emphasizes, that everything is not mind, because mind can develop skills, but buddhi is wisdom, which is far superior to the mind. How to use the skilled mind, a very skilled mind, rational mind, a mind full of feeling, compassion, a mind full of willpower to convert your thoughts and feelings into actions. Everything may be there, but unless the buddhi directs it, the function of buddhi is to guide a person having these faculties, these skills, to use it for a right purpose, or to use it for a purpose that will lead to spiritual development. So, buddhi is closest to what is known as the self. So in Vedanta, these things are different from the self. Self is the pure consciousness. When its light is reflected in the mind, when the consciousness is reflected in the mind, when it is reflected more, it is known as buddhi. When it is reflected less, it is known as the same consciousness. When it is reflected less, it is known as manas, the reactive mind, which is very gross, which we sometimes share with animals. When it becomes further gross, it becomes the sense organs and the body. So, at the level of the physical level, the sense organs or the whole body, which we hold to be so dear, is the grossest. And as it becomes more and more subtle, as our more and more possibilities of the human personality are explored, you come to the level of buddhi, then you may say that your spiritual life has just begun. Till then, all the mental developments, they still come under what you call developing skill sets. You may be a trained doctor. Yeah, you may be a trained doctor. It's in what way it is better than a trained dog? Because a trained dog can smell many things. It can warn you of the impending danger which a human being cannot do. So it is a skill that the dog has been trained to do because his sense organs have been sharpened. So also the surgeon, he has trained his hands and the technique of surgery in such a way that he can do no wrong. But robots also can do that. That is why we have this robotic surgery. And so skill sets are functions of the lower functions of the mind. Though a skilled person need not necessarily be a happy person. That is something we forget. The most skilled person, normally from the worldly point of view, we think we are unhappy because we don't have the skills, we don't have education, we don't have a qualification. If we were skilled, we would have been happy. But that is a wrong idea. The most skillful surgeon also may be unhappy if he is not able to handle people around him, his own family. He may be a very unhappy person. There is no connection between the mental skills and the buddhi. That is what it says. It says it's predominantly sattvic, this buddhi. The light of Atman, or the light of the soul, is shining so brightly in buddhi that it will make even if it makes mistakes, it will be less. The more grosser your mind is, the more mistakes it will commit, the more unhappy it will be, the more restless it will be. So, being identified with the innermost soul, as Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within you. He could have said it is definitely not outside. Otherwise, he would have told us. He says it is within you. So through prayer and through meditation, the more you go inward, that buddhi, that portion of the human personality which we call the mind, becomes transformed because of its association with the spirit within. There is more of spirit manifesting there in that mind, and which we call as buddhi. So Swami Vivekananda defined progress in our life, in individual life, social life, or civilizational life, as the progressive reading of spirit into matter, not the other way around. He said, the more you see the spirit, the less you see the matter, the more happy you are. It's a very simple equation. So when Jesus said, my kingdom is kingdom of the spirit, he did not mean, unfortunately, the Roman emperors mistook him. When he said he was the king of the spiritual empire, they thought he is referring to the Roman Empire, which was conquered through armies, with the help of armies and fighting and all those things. They could not think of a higher possibility than an empire of material things, of property, of wealth, of power. But Christ was definitely referring to himself as the king, but he was the emperor of the spiritual world. So they made a gross mistake by considering matter to be, they were trying to read matter into the spiritual ideas of Christ. And they, as a result, obviously, they crucified him. They felt his physical existence is a danger to their superiority, or their the power that they wield in the world. So the king might have felt threatened because he was becoming more and more popular, not knowing that he had no desire even to become a emperor of the physical world, because his life, his kingdom of God, which he sought, which all prophets of all religions seek, is the kingdom of the spirit. So any possibility, human possibility, which makes us go towards the more subtle, in this case, buddhi. So when we go towards the kingdom of heaven that is within us, the self, it immediately you come across that portion of the mind which clears all your doubts. It removes all the problems like dislike, doubts, guesswork, anxieties because of wrong thinking. All this go when the mind shines, the buddhi shines in the mind. Mind transforms itself into buddhi. So it is also this buddhi is known as Vijnanamaya Purusha. Purusha is the supreme consciousness, which is pure, which is always happy, which is not disturbed by any change. but unfortunately we cannot reach it. The nearest we can, when we go, as we approach the Vijnanamaya Purusha or Vijnanamaya Kosha, we call it Buddhi. So they shine. The light of Buddhi, when it is guiding our mind, we take better decisions in life. We make the right choices. We don't get upset with small setbacks. Anxieties, worries, likes, dislikes, they vanish because we have explored a higher possibility. That is what our class is all about, Vedanta and the science of human possibilities. We cannot say that we have explored all the possibilities when we have reached the height of academic excellence, the height of excellence that we can train ourselves, a lot of skills we can acquire, but still, why are we unhappy? If more skill resulted in more happiness or more progress, then we should be happy. Very often you find the more skilled a person. Sometimes some ignorant people, very simple, guileless, uneducated people are far more happier because they are content with their simple life. But the more complicated the mind becomes, the likes and dislikes change because of the skills. They think uh, they can get what they like in life, and they just, it's a rat race or a mad race for getting more and more things that they said, no, this is my ambition, I will have to get this. So that
Bye.
whole life they are running after something, temporal things, which ultimately they have to leave behind, and that they discover at the end of their life, that I've spent almost all my life gathering something which somebody will snatch away from me. So all the skills have been misused because the buddhi was not there to guide them. What is the function? How? What is the role? All these things play in your life. What are the priorities of our life which will make us happy? If we choose the right priority with the help of buddhi or the function of deliberation or discrimination, as they say, viveka, then you will find that. But for that, the light of buddhi should shine on our mind. As I said, mind does not take decisions. It is the buddhi, the determinative faculty of the mind. It is as if the higher mind is taking decisions on with the help of the lower mind, which is just an instrument. That is why all the sense organs, subtle senses, everything is known as antakarana. They are all our instruments. Our mind itself is an instrument. Our mind thinks, that is why it instructs our tongue to speak, and then we speak. It also instructs us to listen. We hear, and then that sets up some other possibilities. We explore more possibilities. So that is why in Vedanta they say Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. First you listen. First you use the grossest possible approach to knowledge. You first listen. Then you think about it. Just don't jump to any conclusion. Then we'll be instinctive. We will not be intuitive. So if you have the intuitive faculty, which is known as Vijnanamaya Purusha or Kosha, it tells you, it gives you the right perspective to analyze the situations, analyze people, analyze things around you, and be happy, be blissful. That is the goal, because that is the very nature of the soul. So the more it is away from buddhi, the more it is restless, the more the antakarana gives rise to vrittis. Vrittis means waves, thought waves. So yoga solves this problem. Yoga has its own way of solving the problem, which they say is the fourth faculty of the mind, to restrain these thoughts from uh, coming up, to restrain the vrittis like thinking, feeling, and willing. There is another function according to yoga. So a mind has four functions. To restrain the thoughts. The moment an angry thought comes, you say no, you counter it, you restrain it. That is the whole idea behind all the meditation techniques, whether it is Buddhist, Hindu, Christian, Islam, everyone, prayer, meditation, all these things are nothing but techniques to somehow calm down the restless mind without there is no prospect of peace whatsoever. The only way That is why if you see the gospel class, which we will discuss tomorrow, almost invariably, hundreds of times, Sri Ramakrishna says, the first thing that you need to do if you want peace is develop some love for solitude. Just go away from the maddening rush of this world. In the midst of all that conflict and chaos and all the things that are going on, how can you expect some kind of stability? The mind, it wants to settle down, but things will motivate it or maybe push it or uh, disturb it. So, after going into solitude, which is not so easy, solitude is not physical solitude, you have to withdraw your mind. So, yoga gives you several steps how to control the mind. The definition of yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. The whole world may tell you yoga is this, yoga is that. There are so many this yoga festival. If you go in Henley upon Thames, people pay hundreds of pounds to go there. And every year there is a new edition of some yoga. Hot yoga, cold yoga, goat yoga. I saw some goat yoga is there. So some kid, small goat will walk on your back. And I mean, ridiculous ideas about yoga have been prevailing because people want some kind of pastime. So they want to just pass some time. And yoga, you say yoga, ignorantly people will just flock because they are not ready to use their minds. But if you go to Patanjali's yoga, which is the real yoga, he says yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. It doesn't mean anything else. If by doing asana, if you by sitting quietly, if it can help you to still the mind, then that is asana is good. If by doing pranayama, if it can reduce your thought waves, it is good. So all asanas, pranayam, they are secondary disciplines. Going to solitude helps, go to solitude. Sitting in a particular position helps, sit in that position. Asana has no other function other than that. You may develop a whole yogasana course and say promise that you'll increase your health. It may happen, but that is not the purpose of yoga. It is just a physical exercise. You are replacing the desert. So many physical exercises have been developed by humankind. You are replacing it with asanas of the yoga. So, if these asanas, whichever asana you do, if it leads to control of thoughts, chitta vritti nirodha, which is the main function of yoga according to Patanjali, then that yoga is useful. Asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dhyana, dharana, then dhyana, and then samadhi. So he says there are these 8 steps. Each one of these steps are designed in such a way, including the asana, including yama, niyama, the moral virtues, all the things that we do, all the practices that we practice. Everything is designed to create chitta vritti. Chitta means this antakarana, this mental instrument that we have, which has been made turbulent by its contact with the world. So now and then, if you don't balance it by yoga, then the most likely result would be going to a psychiatrist. There's no other way. Because if you can't handle your mind, then you'll have to outsource it to somebody who may make a mess of it. If it's good enough, you're saved. And if he or she is good enough, the psychiatrist may tell you to take control of your own mind. But if you outsource it, we cannot outsource it as we outsource IT and other things. Those things can be outsourced. They are material things. You can ask somebody else to do some work for you, but you can't ask somebody to eat for you and digest it for you. You have to do it yourself. Similarly, this yoga or this science of the mind possibility, the right approach according to yoga is control of one's own mind. One has to do and struggle and do it oneself. Others may guide you. Not that you cannot take help. Yoga, of course, says whatever asana, pranayama, and all those things, if you study each one of them, if it serves the purpose of the primary aim of yoga or primary aim of Vedanta, which is the same. So now we saw the four faculties of the mind. Cognition is a fourfold function, deliberation, which is uh, giving rise to reactions depending on the sensory input, which is known as manas, determination. Now you get a lot of inputs, how to decide when to act, when not to act. That is buddhi, determination. I-ness or ego. The ego, which is also known as ahankara. Ahankara means the sense of me and mine. Mamakara is also involved. If you say I, along with it, there is a train of things that come. When I say I, then I say I, my computer. When you say mama, that means my. But it is nothing but a offshoot of the I. It is because I have an ego that I am I am a person, I am such and such a person, the owner of this laptop, the owner of this microphone. So I say this is my microphone, this is my body, this is my ear. All these things, I-ness, ahankara, is always part of our thinking process. If that is not there, then life becomes very easy. If if somebody says, well, for example, Buddha gave a wonderful example. Buddha gave an example how I and mine we misuse. So Buddha used to go with his disciple Ananda, and obviously they used to beg for food. And many of the people who were uh, not used to all these things, they said, "Why are you begging? Why can't you go and earn a little money? You are a healthy person. You don't seem to be an invalid person. You can easily go and work, earn your living, and eat your own food. Why are you begging?" They did not understand the greatness of Buddha. So the disciples used to get upset whenever such abuses were showered. But Buddha, being Buddha, he never reacted. He just went to the next house. Sometimes he would get scolding there, abuse, and then the disciple was a little upset. So he asked Buddha, "They are insulting you. We can't tolerate it anymore. We'll have to uh, react to that and, give them a peace of mind." So they were actually uh, more disturbed than Buddha. Then Buddha wanted to address this issue. He knew it is the ego, either the ego that I am a great person or I'm a disciple of Buddha, they should not be scolding us. So that ego was an obstruction. So how to remove that? So Buddha gave a different, he had an indirect way of telling the disciples that the ego is responsible for your restlessness and the reaction that you are showing. Why are you getting disturbed? He was not able to understand. Ananda was not able to understand. So Buddha gives him an example. He had a kamandalu. So there is this Buddha and Buddha's kamandalu. Kamandalu means water pot for carrying water. So he asks Ananda, see what a indirect way, but a very effective way of telling what aham and mama is. He says, whose kamandalu is this Buddha, Ananda? So Ananda says, it is yours, sir. It is yours. Definitely it is your kamandalu. You have been using it. I said, okay, fine. Then he hands over that kamandalu. Can you just hold it for me for a few moments? I said, yes, yes, why not? So he holds it. And after walking for a few steps, he again asks Ananda, Ananda, whose kamandalu is that? Then he says, it is yours, sir. So then he says, now did you get the answer? When those people abuse you or scold you, you see, I gave you this kamandalu because you knew it is mine, it belonged to me. You were not egoistically attached to that kamandalu. So you said, even though you were holding it, you said it is yours, it is not mine. So you have the choice with whether to accept something as yours or reject it. Since you knew it is mine, you rejected it. You didn't want to consider it as yours. You could have said it is mine because it is in my hand, but you did not say that. Similarly, when the person who is scolding you, when instead of giving alms something to eat, they are cursing you. It is, I have to decide whether I should accept those words or not. If you had accepted the Kamandalu and said it is mine, then it would have been wrong. So if I don't accept certain things, then the thing remains with the Kamandalu still remains mine. You took it, you held it because I told you to do, but the Kamandalu was still mine. So if a person abuses you, if you don't react, the curses are going to remain with him. They are not going to affect you. So that is how we taught. How ahankara makes you feel that this is mine, these words are meant for me. Sometimes there are people, somebody is shouting at someone and they, because of their ego, they think this person is abusing me. And then they find a means, they find a reason to quarrel. They say, I've not addressed it to you, I was saying it to somebody else. It happens very many times. That is because of this ego. So, when we see an object, say a chair, or we do not, this is how psychologically we behave in the world. When we see a chair, first, we do not, according to Vedanta, it passes, but it happens so fast that we see the chair and we call it a chair. But first we see it, then it goes to the mind. We have a vague apprehension of what it is. Maybe you are seeing from a distance a big something is lying there. You think it is a rope, but as you go near, you find a snake. So first we have a vague apprehension. As we cognize as we cognize the object, then we start asking question. What is it? Oh, let me go. I'm not able to. We are trying to deliberate what it is. So Manas has that function. It can determine whether it is a snake or a rope. Oh, it looks like a snake, but let me just go. Oh, no, no, it is just a rope. It looked like a snake. So this function of cogitation of is Manas. That is the function. Then we search for within. Within means our memories. We have to, unfortunately, people who have dementia, they are somehow neurologically, their old memories have been erased. So they don't know whether they've eaten, they can't compare it with the past. That is a physical condition. But other than that, most of us, even in old age, have memory of certain things that we have experienced, though our memory may not be as sharp as it was in a younger age. So the object that you see, before you deliberate and decide what it is, you try to connect it. This is a chair because this is the shape. If I sit on it, it can be used as a chair. So all this recollection is the function of chitta. That is another function of the mind. Chitta means the residual impressions, past impressions. So it's a very scientific way of understanding how our mind functions. So depending on how uh, rich your chitta is, how much experienced you are, you can relate it, correlate it. Otherwise, an ignorant person, even if he has not never ever seen a snake, does not even know its properties, thinking it is a harmless animal, he will go. But if he has a memory of this life or past life, the chitta knows that it is a poisonous snake. It may be a poisonous snake. He will not touch it. Or, for example, when young children, when they see fire, they have a tendency to go and touch it. But once it burns, that experience goes and settles down in the Karana Sharira in as subtle impressions. Then it determines that next time I see this, I should not touch my finger. So, this recognition, this determination that this is fire, fire means it burns. Now, whether you should touch it or not, that is the deliberative that comes, because the ahankara will tell, the ego comes into play, and it will tell the child, see, when you touched it last time, it burned. Now you decide. But sometimes foolish, that ahankara is so strong, he said, no, no, I will touch it. It will burn again. So that is what happens in our life. We commit the same mistake thinking that this time things will be better. We get in, suppose somebody marries somebody and the relationship breaks, then they still hope. That experience ought to have taught them that things may recur again, but they still give hope. That is one way of convincing the mind. Maybe it will be, I'll have better luck this time. So that is how buddhi functions. The ahankara will tell, ahankara is neutral. Ahankara, the ego will make it act once it has decided. So the buddhi can make that person act. If the buddhi is good, if he has learned through his previous experience, he may say, no, no, I once burned my finger, I would not do it again. But if he is willing to take a chance, or if he is clouded, his memory is clouded, he just continues to ignore the memory of the past, then he may go in, have a second experience. Maybe it needs two or three burns to realize, to burn his fingers two, three times. Then it becomes such a memory, then he will, even you can't force him to do it. You can't make him use his willpower. So cognition, according to Vedanta, is a form of recognition. In order to know anything, to know physics, chemistry, mathematics, spirituality, anything we want to know, if you want to know, one has to relate with something which is already known. So the fourfold cognitive functions, now these are very important, because when you say mind, we cannot vaguely say, what do you say when you say mind? Which part of the mind? Mind is, that is why known as antakarana, the internal instrument. So what is your mind? What is my mind? They may be totally different. Your mind may be full of buddhi, my mind may be full of manas, my mind may be very reactive, somebody else's mind is something else. So when you say his mind, my mind, there you refer to different personalities, different possibilities. So you may have a similar body, but you may have a different mind. Twins, for example. You may have a similar body, more or less similar, but the mind, the functions, four modes of cognition: manas, deliberation; buddhi, determination; ahankara, the I-ness; and chitta, that is recollection. They say the first two, manas and buddhi, are primary. Ahankara and chitta, they are somehow connected. So basically, there is buddhi and manas. That is why Vedanta's Sara says chitta is there in buddhi, because your past experiences will give you the faculty to decide. The viveka, the discrimination, is based on past experiences. So according to some scriptures, they say there are only two functions, manas and buddhi. They are the primary. Chitta and ahankara, they are joined. Buddhi and ahankara, chitta in buddhi and ahankara is in manas. Because your mind may say anything, but whether you react, whether you are aggressive or not aggressive, that will be decided by your ego. If you are egoistic, it doesn't matter even if you lose, you will be ready to fight. Even if you are defeated 100 times, your ego will not allow you to give it up. You know, every time I go and fight with this person, I'm going to lose. But the ego is so strong that it doesn't mind getting a lot of blows. So that is why manas and ahankara are put together. But normally it is good. Psychologically, we understand better if we divide our mind, antakarana, I'm using the proper word, antakarana, as manas, buddhi, ahankara, and chitta. Chitta means the collection of old memories, all accumulated memories. It's not just of this life. They say we inherit the old memories of several lives. That is why when you see very talented people who have not have had skill training, but suddenly they develop this talent, that is because of the superabundance of chitta vrittis which he has inherited from past birth. That shows that the subtle body continues from one body to another. So, where is now comes the next question, and we'll conclude. If there are some questions, we'll see. What is the magnitude of the mind? Is it, means we know now it is known as antakarana. Is it restricted? Is it located in the heart? Does it extend all over the body? Does it extend only in the brain? It is so confusing. that there are many views. In Vidyaranya in Panchadashi, he says the seat of mind is in the heart. Most of the religious or spiritual teachers, they believe, because all the meditation, all the focus, all the conscious principles and other things, they arise from the heart, not the physical heart, the center of the nervous system. The spinal cord, if you consider the spinal cord from the head to the base of the spine, the heart is in between. So that is where the energy, the mind and body, in Vedanta it is known as Chit Jada Granthi. The mind is attached to the body through the heart. That is what this heart is, not the physical heart, the heart center. So, though it is located, the heart is located, though located in the heart, the mind is not confined there. That is, Vedanta says. It has the power to expand because it is composed of finest elements. It is an antakarana, it's a very versatile instrument. It can go far away. It has tremendous capacity for expansion and contraction. That is why you say his mind is very narrow. Why do you say narrow mind and a broad mind? That means his mind is very inclusive. It can accept everyone, and he doesn't. But some minds are very exclusive. They're just concerned about themselves. Sometimes, if they're a little liberal, they will be concerned about their family, but not beyond that. So that mind has the capacity to contact, but broad minds, that's why they say broad-minded people become saints. They just expand their mind so much that it reaches out to even unknown people. So the capacity of expansion and contraction we can see. So mind being subtle and antakarana, the instrument can be very narrow, or you can have a very absolutely narrow mind, which is known as a selfish mind. And in fact, the materialists like Richard Dawkins wrote a book, The God Delusion. In that he wrote another book, The Selfish Gene. Because when we see the animals, we can see that. Animals, they survival of the fittest, as Darwin said. They will first survive. There is a famous example they did, but they think all animals, whatever their behaviors animals exhibit, they think man also does. That is the mistake Darwinists and this materialists make. They give the example. They did a live example actually, a live experiment, where there was a big cylinder. They put a baby monkey with a mother monkey, and they started pouring water. So as the water rose, the first instinct of the mother, and with that they are concluding that whole creation is like that. You can't compare human beings with monkeys. But anyway, science wants to do everything through experiments. Anyway, experiments. So they poured water slowly. The water was rising. It came to the neck, and the mother monkey held the child on the top of its head. It said, even if I die, the child should survive. But that is only up to a certain point. After that, they found that when the water started entering its nostrils and it was suffocating, it just threw away the child. And not only that, when the water went further up, it thought that the child was drowned, and it started to stand on that own child and try to somehow keep its nose above water. So it did not, that clinging to life is so most of the materialists or the Darwinists, they say survival of the fittest. So you want to survive, and that desire to survive biologically uh, makes you fit to defeat other animals, and that is how in creation there is competition for survival. If you want to survive, you have to sacrifice maybe your child also. And then the whole instinct of the mother changes. The very mother who wanted to protect the child, now when it came to her own survival, they seeing quoting this experiment, they said, that is how human beings behave. But in human beings, you will find there is a totally new development. People have sacrificed their lives for their children. Mothers have sacrificed. Some people have donated their uh, organs so that, and they have taken the risk for other people. If survival of the fittest was applicable to animals, it's not applicable to human beings because this buddhi has been developed. So the heart is not, the mind is not confined to the heart. It can go out, it can embrace more people, it can be liberal, it can be selfish. If it goes to the animal level, it will behave, follow Darwin's principle that I and my family let the whole world go to hell. Let society go. If there is poverty, what is it to me? As long as I am rich, I am my then after satisfying my needs, my family. That is how exclusive people can be. But that doesn't mean there are people who are very inclusive. They may go to all sorts of uh, sacrifices to make others happy. So you can't explain. It has an enormous capacity for expansion and contraction. So we'll see that how this mind functions exclusively, and it tries to include. It has infinite capacity. That is why mind, the another name of mind is known as Ananta, it's infinite. So mind, according to spiritual value, according to Vedanta and the spiritual philosophy, it has an infinite capacity to expand. So a heart or a mind that thinks of other people, is compassionate, can be infinitely expansive, and a selfish person can be very, very contracted, limited, exclusive. So we'll discuss that in the next class. Is there any question? Yeah, so we'll conclude. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sri Ram Krishna